Hello folks, this is Felski and welcome to Tinkering with Felski. In this third installment of repurposing the Dictaphone wax cylinder recorder, I plan to show you what I've done since the last video. So as you can see, I've now painted the chassis and put some of the necessary components back together. Now for those that haven't been following along, let me bring you up to speed. This is an old recorder that in the early 1920s would have been used to record the human voice, probably in an office environment. Now this particular one was missing a lot of the components, and I decided I want to repurpose it as a noise machine or an ambient sound machine. More specifically, I want to imitate the sound of rain. For anybody that's familiar with the percussion instrument, the rain stick, you'll kind of have a familiarity of what I'm thinking about. So the idea is it'll rotate, and the inside bits, along with little nails inside interacting, will create, hopefully, the sound of rain. So let's take a look at the inside. If you look closely, you can see the motor. And the motor I ended up using is actually a vibraphone motor, a motor off the percussion instrument known as the vibraphone. So this is the motor here and the controller turns it on and off and also controls how fast the motor's going. And this is one of the main reasons I wanted to use this motor, because I have a couple of these motors. The fact that they're variable speed is huge, because I want to be able to dial in, you know, is it a rainstorm or is it just a trickle? And also it's a relatively quiet motor, which will also be important if I want the focus for the listener to be on the actual, rain sound. There is one thing I'll have to overcome, which is that although it's a fairly quiet motor, on hollow or resonant surfaces, it does get a bit loud. So check this out. So this table's hollow and it acts as an amplifier. And it's not nearly as bad in the actual machine, but there's a little of that, so I'll likely have to work towards remedying that. But either way, at the very least, I've got the motor installed and it is working. So let's take a closer look. You can see this gray piece of sheet metal is mounted where the original motor would have went, and then I mounted the motor here. I really wanted to have the motor the other way so that the controller could come in from the far side, but unfortunately the motor is in the wrong direction. This is a DC motor, and I tried to just flip the power source around, because normally with a DC motor, if you flip the polarity, it'll flip the direction, but it didn't work that way. I think I would have to actually take apart the motor assembly and rewire it from the inside. And I'm not exactly an electronics whiz, so I just flipped it around inside for now. But anyway, that's working. And then in addition to getting the motor hooked up, I also had to make a pulley. So what I opted to do was to make my own pulley, or did I say pulley? I meant belt. I made my own belt so that I can control the length and diameter of it. So I actually ended up finding the perfect material for the belt. I merely took an inner tube, an old discarded inner tube from a tractor tire, and I'm using that as the material to make my my belts. Here's one of the belts I made. I simply just laid it out flat and with a straight edge, just cut with a sharp knife, and I was able to get it pretty straight. And then I just had to play around with how large of a belt to make. I wanted it loose enough that it didn't put strain on the motor, but I wanted it tight enough that the belt didn't slip. So I think I've got it set up adequately for that. But yeah, enough of me talking about it. Let me turn the motor on and give you a chance to actually see it in action. So here's the controller for the motor that's installed. We'll start at the slowest setting. So my finger is trying to follow the speed of the motor. And as you can see, it's very slow. So that was 1 revolution. What did that take? A second or two? Now at the highest speed, can you hear that motor? That's got to be dealt with. But anyway, here's the fastest speed. I'm hoping that's going to be fast enough for the ideal sound that I'll be going for. If it needs to be faster, I'll have to play around with gearing. Perhaps putting a bigger pulley off of the motor. I don't think it'd be easy to replace this with a smaller pulley up here, so it'd probably have to be down there. Or perhaps inside the motor I could alter it in some way. I actually took this motor apart trying to figure out the reversing the polarity. Maybe one of my electronics friends can help me figure out which of these 4 wires going to the motor would have to be flipped in order to reverse the direction of the motor. But either way, that's where I'm at currently. So yeah, thanks for watching. Next video I'll be working on the actual business part of this, which will be the tube filled with some sort of substrate and the nails. So thanks for watching, and if you want to keep following, please like and subscribe. All right, have a good one.